These walls can talk. Open your mind and listen.
Trailing down these hollowed halls, can you hear me? Staring down these storied walls, can you see me?
There we go.
Fiona, I gotta say about that entrance video, we've had that bumper for a lot of years. We had that song written for us. It just doesn't feature enough of me.
No?
It features a fat me. Like I was about
It features a fat you.
70 pounds more in that video. So Sandy had better produce a new video. And I had a lot less gray. I look more like Adrian now than I did back then.
Hey, Adrian looks less like Adrian did, so and he's gonna work on her when he gets back. There's less of me.
And welcoming to the CHAPS DARKSIDE. Fiona, I don't know what chapter this is, 53. I could just look at the top of the screen. I'm not the technical one. Fiona?
It is. It's 53.
It's 53. My daughter, she's the one that runs the social media for this little group of mine. And this is probably the most guests we've ever had on, which is great.
Fun.
I've investigated with two of these gentlemen. I had got to get down to Costa Rica and investigate with Isela. I really excited to get people together. And considering this is a pretty unorthodox kind of topic I was bringing up tonight, a lot more of, originally, I think your original title you'd put to this, Fiona, was Beyond the Pews, which I thought was kind of interesting. And now it's like religion, relics, and something else. So my thoughts were, and this came across, and I'll answer my answers, and we can just go stage it around. We don't have to take all night. I know I've done an investigation, and I've had run into certain places where, say, if I was dealing with an islander, from the Caribbean, they wouldn't be in the home. They don't want to be associated with hearing the name, right? And other religions and beliefs, whether you want religion, belief, faith, or culture, I want to know how that affects your investigation approach. And is it plausible that there are some things that, when I was in Poland and I stirred up a little bit of a shit's nest on the CHAPS family board because I asked about investigation at Auschwitz. Now, I'm talking about just dropping an audio to hopefully see in my pocket. I'm not talking about having a camera system. I'm not talking about doing an EVP session with all kinds. I'm just talking about the maybe hit. Which of case I can tell you, I did do that. When I went to Auschwitz, there were 40 tour buses there, about 1,000 people an hour being pushed through the place. So guess what? Didn't even bother, right? The contamination level would be just so out there. We did investigate our hotel room, which was a 700-year-old, I think it was a student's residence for the Krakow University. Didn't get anything out of that, but it was cool to do it nonetheless. But a lot of people, like say in Poland, are 97% very, very staunch Catholic. When I had mentioned in the forums going over there, I was chirped and insulted very hard for trying to find the idea of doing this. So I know that there are what my ex-wife calls herself. Which one calls herself? A recovered Catholic? That's what Fiona's mother would say. She was a recovered Catholic, but a little more open to it, but very, very staunch there. And I had to watch my mouth. So going into this, and I would also like to know what your culture, religion, faith, whatever, thinks of what you're doing. So I'll give you my breakdown on this. And also, what does your faith, culture, personal belief really? What is a haunt? Where what is your philosophical idea of how that can get created? So I'm going to give you my quick 10-minute spiel, and then we'll go around the table, and then we can ask funny questions. So I was born and raised in the spiritualist church. I was born and raised in the church that creates mediums and psychics. Okay? So it gave me a pretty good eyeglass on how they go about it and what they do and how things are near it and what you actually feel or how much bullshit actually exists. When I became an adult, I dropped most of that out of my life because I had been watching. I've still got my textbooks from the University of Spiritual Sciences. My mother used to communicate with Lorraine Warren on a somewhat regular basis and warned me to stay away from her. So my faith was based on, future lives, right? Originally. But then when I started seeing the shenanigans of what they would do at psychic fairs, because I was one of those people at psychic fairs telling tarot cards for money. All right. I did that until, like my first marriage, up to my adult life. I was this. Yeah,
I like that you time your life based on your marriages.
Based on marriages. Yeah. So I became, and I got into this about the same time. 1994, I started studying martial arts. I started the occupation I'm in, and I started paranormal investigation. And it opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. And as throughout the years, luckily, I've learned from other people, maybe I should look at things a little different way or look at it deeper. So knowing the shenanigans that were coming out of it, I kind of dropped out of the spiritual life 100%. Like, I respect anybody's faith and religion. I'm like an atheist myself. Organized religion makes me very angry many times, but myself, I lost faith in anything that exists, right? And then we start to say, well, then how can you have faith there's something beyond? Like, I don't know if, scientifically, my body, which is, energy or whatever, however we need to describe it, just converts into another form of energy. I don't know if my body on the other side now becomes a speck, an electron that passes through wires, or is dust. I have no clue, and nobody knows, right? Like, anybody who says they do know are full of shit. We're just here throwing toys at the wind to see what comes back. My faith in what's on the other side, of course, comes from what I've heard in files that, I have different comparative angles, different values to it that tell me that there's got to be something, but I want to figure out what's the dichotomy between the living and what I'm hearing. Or is this a bloody recording that's made for me? So I don't know. So I don't have any religious hangups in regards. I don't have a religious community that looks and says you shouldn't be doing this. Also, like, done in your religion, like where the benchmarks are that you don't go to. Like, a lot of people say they don't go to cemeteries. They don't do this. I don't go to cemeteries because of contamination. There's too much that's going to contaminate my file. But I don't care. Like, a cemetery, old building. The only thing I'm sensitive about is people's sensitivities. If somebody's husband just died, obviously, and I have been called into a house as soon as somebody's husband died, and I did it, and I knew the gentleman ahead of time, which was weird, but I would tend to be that's kind of the one border I won't cross, is the whole too soon rule. But it's only too soon until my client says it's fine, right? To me, I don't have an ethical or moral boundary other than I'm not asking you for money because I have no proof of anything I'm going to say. And we're all going to be casual and cool with each other. I don't think I'm better. I don't think I know more. But dude, I sell bolts for a living. So I'm no one. But I know that some of you come from different cultural backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, different scientific backgrounds. So what I'd like to hear is your thoughts. Coffee.
Okay.
Ladies first.
Sure.
Okay, well, it's interesting what you said because I was raised a Catholic, but I also, when I started like with paranormal investigation like 15 years ago, I also had this moment of skepticism and I drifted away from religion as well. I do have like my own belief of something else. There had to be an explanation of some of the things that I was experiencing because something that attracted me to study the paranormal was my own experiences. And then when I started learning about parapsychology and the reach of the human potential and some things that can be an interpretation of our own minds or the way we perceive things when we go to a, let's say, a haunted place and we get like these images or these residual energies that from the team two can sense them, two can see something and the rest can't. It's interesting because after being completely skeptic, then after some of these experiences and ones that I have no explanation for, then I'm kind of in the middle right now. Here in my country, I'm from Costa Rica. Mostly are Christian, mostly Catholic. And this is kind of, the paranormal investigation is kind of a taboo as well, more than in the US or Canada. And also the government is very strict with, I mean, the nicest places that we can go, or we would love to go research or investigate it's forbidden. The cool places, we can't go there. I've had the chance to get to some of those in an alternative way without permission. But right now they are very, very strict, right? That happened many years ago, but right now we can't. So there are many things that these studies of parapsychology and animalistic psychology that I've been doing, they bring the answers back to ourselves. So right now, it's not that I don't believe in anything else paranormal, but I think that the belief of the person does have something to do with what you're going to experience. If you are very skeptic, it's possible that you are even going to alter the results, that you will get none. And if you are very a believer, if you want to see something, well, not all the time, but if you really want to see something, either you are going to catch something, to actually see an apparition or a shadow or hear something, or you might manipulate unconsciously, even an audio, an EVP, or I mean, there are a lot of theories related to this from a scientific perspective.
You get like a confirmation bias.
Yeah, confirmation bias, and also like the sheep goat model, I think it's called. That if you see everything like in a positive way, you're probably going to get good results. And if you are completely negative, if you're the goat, you'll get no results on even what we call the sign missing, which is nothing at all.
Right.
Under the media, not the media, I'm sorry. You all get what I'm saying.
No,
under the average of the, I lost the word, I'm sorry. You'll get it. Let me get the word back to you.
So how does your culture or your community view what you're doing? Are you kind of I wouldn't want to say it's shunned. That's not nice. But like, do they have a certain temperament of you where it's like that's just what she does, or are they outright like we don't like what you do, or are they supportive?
It's interesting because we have a community that they like what we are doing because we are making a difference from the people that are just chasing ghosts on a show, and they just want to, I don't know, they even make up evidence and they just want rating, and they like the way we are handling things from a serious perspective. And I think we have a certain group that really likes what we're doing, but the big paranormal community here likes or prefers, the YouTube shows that we all know, and the more mainstream ghost hunting. And so it's been hard, but as a negative thing, I don't think so. I think at least here the community respects each other. There are like 3 groups, and we are a very small country with 5 million inhabitants, the whole country. So we need to play nice, and we do.
Well, that's good. That's awesome. That totally sounds awesome. And I wonder that too, because I know that, and I sometimes think that, say, within the Catholic community, a good number of investigators I've had on my team over the years are from the Catholic faith. And I don't know if it's the ritualistic stuff that goes on or whatever, but they seem very attracted to the paranormal. You're definitely right. Towards the end, they're talking. People are always allured more to the teams that have the flashy lights and the things that go bing and all that. Like I've got a seminar I'm teaching in September. I'm almost ready to cancel it because the other team that's in town here, which now has been sponsored by a coffee company, is going around teaching everybody how to use spirit boxes properly. And they're getting venues where they're getting 300 or 400 people. So I'm like, right? And they're really busy. They're getting some prime locations. We're having to fight for it. So unfortunately, because with us, you're just going to get my opinion, and we don't have things that go bing. We're incredibly low tech. Like I think our most recent piece of equipment is a handy cam, which is about 10 years old. Like nothing. Everybody got this new dead bell, the EMF director, the detector with the bell on it. So I took one of the old K2s that was in my spare box, and I put it next to a bell that I bought. And I said, there you go. It's the same thing. That cost me $11 instead of $500 for that stupid thing.
The problem is that they have all these flashy things, they have all those toys, and they have no methodology, they have no objectives, they don't know how to work a case, and they go to do nothing, just to play and see if they catch any anomaly. So without methodology, there's not a real investigation.
A lot of the thing is people can't let go of ego. They all think they have to start off out of the box. 32 years I've been at this, but I can tell you, like, even some of the gentlemen that are on the screen, I've worked with, one kind of taught me to get my pacing with my questions better and talk with empathy. I got that from Adrian. He's kind of like, boy, you really are kind of cold. He does this in his Arkansas accent. You are kind of cold the way you say things, and you talk too fast. And
you're talking to people, man.
Right. And then Rob, he's a scientist. So he's like, talk to me about like what's the experiment you're working on? Why do you need the tools that you're using? And I'm like, you're right. So it's okay after 25 years or 20 years or whatever it was at the time to be able to go, I really need to reanalyze what I'm doing. It's not that I'm doing wrong. It's that I can enhance what I'm doing. And that's okay. And we all learn from each other. So I'm going to go to the next step, and I know that Adrian's got to go play karaoke. So I don't want to keep. Well, look, man, I don't have a voice.
There's life outside of the paranormal. I'm telling you. No, okay, I'll go. No, you're talking about background and how the church is with this, and I'll tell you right up. My church is kind of sketchy about it. Some of the people really think it's cool, and some of the people don't. But they forget why I got into this, or they don't care why I started doing it, because a lot of people from the church, and I get why they do it. They believe that once you die, you either go to heaven or you go to hell. That's There's no in between. And that's not what the Bible says. The Bible did say to be absent from the body, to be present with the Lord, but that was specifically talking to somebody on mission. Everybody else, like the thief on the cross, Jesus said, today you'll be with me in paradise. So what's paradise? Paradise is that dimensional realm. Paradise, the only thing that was described as paradise in the Bible was the Garden of Eden, which is still there. It didn't disappear. It's guarded by angels with flaming swords. But with that basis, I was like going, all right, I was like a regular Christian. I didn't believe that there were ghosts. We lived in a haunted house, and it took something that actually for me to experience to bridge that gap. And then I actually had to start reading and stop listening to people and doing my own research and realized that Jesus was Jewish. And so to understand that spiritual realm, I had to go down the Jewish rabbit hole, not the Catholic, not the Presbyterian, not any of that stuff. I had to go back to him. And to the Jews, ghosts were a thing. And if you read the Bible in the New Testament, Jesus dealt with ghosts. He spoke about them. He didn't deny the existence of them because that was just common knowledge. They existed. He dealt with demons. He cast them out, told them to go away. And he spoke with angels. So to me, there's a clear difference between the three. So after I had my first paranormal experience, I went down that path. And most people in the church are like, oh, you're just consorting with demons and all that stuff is demonic. And I said, that's not, I don't believe that. But there's a lot of stuff I don't believe. I walk my own path. I walk my own path in the paranormal. A lot of stuff that the paranormal people say, I laugh at because I am a skeptic. I believe because I've experienced things, but I'm a skeptic. You can tell me you experienced all kinds of stuff. I'm going to walk in the building and I'm not going to predispose myself to where nothing's there or there's a whole bunch of stuff there. Or like that door is going to move at 3 a.m. I don't go down that path. But as far as my religion goes and the paranormal, it's why I do it. It's why I got into it. And we got into doing this because this house that I'm currently in is haunted. And we've lived here for 25 years. And we've had times where it goes crazy and times that nothing happens. And we've never investigated the house, but we do have EVPs because some of my teammates have ran recorders in here. But yeah, it's just weird. I got into it because there were no Christian teams. And if anybody had a problem, they had to go to a pagan team or a spiritualist team. And they wouldn't come at it with that angle like I do. And I wanted to go. Bible told me to go out as a disciple of Christ to cast out demons. And so I wanted to go and discern what it is. So we did close to 500 investigations, had one that I would consider demonic. So I think there's a clear line of just straight up ghosts out there. And I believe that they were dead people. Now, why they're showing up and bleeding through that veil and not everybody, I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. But.
So do you actually believe then that, so when you pass, do we transgress into something, or we just don't have the body, or what is our physical embodiment, or?
Without turning this into church, I believe that we are souls.
Okay.
We're trapped in a meat suit. When we die, that meat suit is left behind, and our soul is out there.
Right.
Man, that's a supernatural quote.
Right there. Yeah. So I have no idea. I don't have that answer. And the more I've investigated, the less I know as far as that goes.
You know what?
I'm never going to get that. I don't think we are on this side of life.
I so totally respect that kind of comment because, when people are like, this is what happens when you die. Essentially, if we're all coming to the same thing, like this is maybe where I hope, but I don't know. That's why I got to say to people, because they're always like, well, we see this person, the period, which I always wondered what, like somebody in period dress, which, I would think that would be
what period?
On a loose T-shirt.
What period? Yeah.
But like with the top hat, and I'm like, well, how do you know when you pass if you're small enough that you can't see the person in a microscope, or maybe they're vapor or whatever. I don't know that I would wear the same clothing.
You don't know if you'd wear any clothing, Dave.
I don't know where I'd be like a streaker.
Nobody wants to see that.
No,
Nobody.
Well, not my daughter, but in the whole world. So
I agree with you. It's saying, yeah, you don't ever. I don't ever see anybody in 1970s, zoot suits. I've never seen anybody like that. I've not seen the big hair 80s people.
Yeah.
I haven't seen. Yeah, you always see like they say, period clothing. What does that mean? I don't know, but I have seen Civil War soldiers. I've seen people. I've seen people. Three of us investigators at the hospital that we've done here, that you come down here for.
Oh yes.
3 of us investigators saw 2 full body apparitions at the same time. One disappeared. We alerted to that and walking next to this other one who disappeared, and we were like just going crazy about it. But she didn't look out of place because we were doing an event that night,
Right.
out of place of anybody else that was there. So I don't understand the clothes either.
No.
But you always hear your ghost stories are always from somebody from way back,
Yeah.
or somebody you just passed.
Right.
So I don't understand that either.
Narrative. Now I will say, the only time I've ever seen in 32 years a shadow person, now no, everybody has that, was with you. When that investigation, when we were sitting on that picnic table and that godly, I don't know whether it was 200 rooms long hallway. And then,
a mile long.
So just to give a quick story, because Adrian and I were sitting on this picnic table, and we saw something going. I saw Adrian get up and start running. So I'm thinking, I'm going to follow this cat because it's dark, and I'm running and I'm following shoes, little white soles, following shoes, and then they dip off to the side and into a room. So I'm in that room, and Adrian's not in that room with me. And I duck my head out the hallway. Adrian's still sitting on the picnic table about 200 feet back. He's like, where'd you go? You just started running. I was chasing you. I haven't gotten off the table. So that was the only time I've ever physically felt like I was chasing something. And I love it to this day. I tell the story all the time. It gets me so excited to actually maybe have been that close, but who knows?
Yeah, but see, you were in such hyper mode. I remember on that investigation, I was telling you, because you're doing an EVP session. It's like, what's your name? When did you die? How did you're like? I was like, slow down, because I can just imagine a ghost trying to answer you, going.
Yeah. I was on high octane that night. No doubt.
It was high octane.
We all have faults. What about you? What about you, Bob?
Well, first, I was raised in a very conservative Protestant church in West Virginia, and no, we did not handle snakes. But that's a joke. Everybody says that about West Virginia. But,
boring.
Yeah, I know.
You're lame.
But anyway, they and a lot of the people in that community really frown on this kind of stuff. They really do. I mean, there's only angels and demons, and that is it. You don't have anything else in there. So they really frown on what I'm doing because they think I'm going to stir up a bunch of stuff and cause the end of the world, kind of like what happened in the show Supernatural in season 4. But I was brought up that way for a long time, and then when I was in high school, junior high and high school, I got into doing a lot of reading. Of course, this was back when we were using scrolls and pieces of slate with hammers and chisels and stuff. But we did a lot of. I was doing a lot of reading, and then it occurred to me that maybe that might not be the way it is. Maybe there's other stuff out there too. And so I started reading everything I could, and then ended up going down the science rabbit hole a long time ago. I ended up becoming a chemist for Dow Chemical Corporation, and I went through that whole rigmarole, and it started making me look at things from the hard science perspective. You know, if something happens, and the way that I think, because I have to I have a belief. You know, you got to think a belief structure involves a lot of hope. It just does, because you got to hope there's somewhere else for me to go once my body goes away. So there's a lot of hope involved in that, and I firmly believe that kind of thing. And I had some weirdness happen when my sister passed away. A flock of cardinals ended up landing on the windowsill in the hospice room where she was when she passed. The darndest thing I have ever seen in my life, because cardinals don't do that. They're very, you know, you might have two at a time. You don't have a flock of cardinals. There must have been 20 cardinals on that windowsill.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, you know, and that helps on the belief side of things. I didn't have anything 100%, you know, scientific to say, well, you know, that something really happened there. I can't say that, but my belief says, you know, yeah, that was, you know, had to do with my sister's passing. So that kind of stuff, you know, still floats around in my head. But when we go and do our research projects, we don't really do investigations. You know, we're a 501c3 nonprofit academic research organization, and we go and we actually you know, do research into various theories about what this stuff is that people think they see and hear. You know, so we go and we're doing research into that, and I have to take that belief structure and put it back here, because when you're collecting data, that belief structure throws more confirmation bias into, just like you guys said, than anything you could possibly think of. So you've got to set that back here. You have a theory about what's going on, so you collect data to help prove or disprove your theory. That's the experiment. And then you go in and you do your analysis and things, and then you find out that you have just raised about 50 questions when you were only asking one. So so then we expand our experiments. We keep doing and pulling more data and stuff like that. And some of this stuff is very eye-opening. But here's the funny thing. None of our, you know, we may not have any data that says there's such a thing as a spiritual ghost. We don't have any data that says that. However, we don't have any data that says there isn't one either. So that right there, you know, says a lot, and it helps. And our belief structures help, you know, compartmentalize that stuff, because we have a belief structure, you know, that, you know, I believe in the you know, Heavenly Spirit, and I believe, you know, you need to be saved, you know, that kind of stuff in order to go to heaven and things like that. I believe in all of that. But when I'm collecting this data, that's got to be passive. That's got to be, I can't throw that kind of bias in there. I just can't.
100%.
And so, I will say that in our organization, I think it's interesting because some of the people you're interacting with on YouTube there, Adrian, one, Aaron Colgrove is an archaeologist in our organization. And we have a lot of different skill sets in our organization. And Leslie is an internal medicine MD and in our organization. But they have some very specific belief structures of their own. And they bring them, and we actually sit around in our HQ sometimes and just talk about stuff like this. You know, that's great. And we just talk about stuff like this, belief structures and what have you, but we can't let that interfere with the experiment that's going on. And we tend to do, it's a lot of passive data collection, makes Dave go to sleep, you know, that kind of stuff, you know. But
completely
you got to let the data collection and the stuff, you got to take that for as it is. And then after it's done, you could throw your opinion on top of that. But the data, it stands on its own. I'm a diagnostic professional. I'm an X-ray tech, and that's why we started the team. Like I said, this house is haunted, so I went to look for a paranormal team, and I wouldn't invite these people in my house because I was looking at their evidence, and I'm not an investigator. But I was like, that's clearly an artifact. How do you not know your equipment?
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at things from strictly a diagnostic form. And I was like, no, these people, they come in here and tell me, anything. And then nowadays you throw in everybody's a freaking psychic, like you said, Dave. They that's a learned thing that they do. I don't necessarily believe it's true, but now because I know several people who weren't psychic and now are, and I'm like, come on, guys. But
Well, look for
that's
the
where we're gonna
LSD
run.
packet.
That's where we run into problems when you're dealing with this subject because you're talking religion and the paranormal. Why
Yeah.
is there religion in the paranormal at all? Because they talk about the demonic. And if you come across something demonic and you're not truly an apostle, if you're not truly a disciple of Christ, you're going to
You're
get your
done.
butt kicked.
You're done.
You're done. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
because you can act a part all you want, but you can't act that part because they will see through that in a heartbeat, and you'll just get slaughtered. And that the Seven Sons of Sceva is a great thing to point out at that because they were trying to cast demons out using Jesus' name and Paul's name, and they're like, Jesus I know, Paul I know, but who are you? And then just smacked him around. You
Yeah.
just can't do that.
And if you think about it, I've been doing this. I've only been doing this since 2010. Our organization's been around since 2000, but I've only been doing this since 2010. And we have just an example of how much data we've been collecting and how many sites we go to collect this data and such. We're pushing 4 terabytes of data now.
Whew.
And it's a lot. And we're doing some holistic analysis of it. And I'm not going to get into that here. But the thing that I found interesting is we've only really run into one situation where, I'm not allowed to talk about it. And we handed it off to the Catholic Church, and it's the only time that I've ever run into anything that made me pause, religiously.
Yes.
Because I was like, whoa, but everything else we've gone to doesn't ever do anything like that. And that's one of the other reasons why we don't do home investigations too. But
that was our primary thing. Home.
Yeah, and we just don't. And so we have enough sites where we can collect the data we need to do stuff like that. But it can really yes, Leslie, the investigation has shut up be named. And now I'm looking, I got to knock on wood. It's a West Virginia thing.
Taylor, you were trying to crack in there and say something.
Yes, that is very interesting because in over 500 cases that our Hades group has researched since 2010, there's only been 3 cases of paranormal or something negative, and that's all. That's about it. And we've had some that we categorize as like 5 parapsychological in over 500. So not everything is paranormal.
That is very true. But that also depends on, I guess, where you limit your our thought process is if you get an EVP in a location, and then by definition, since that's paranormal, it is a haunt. And that's the way I look at it. Now, some people, science might not understand the whole EVP thing, and they might say it's radio chatter or stuff like that. I think that's less of a possibility of it being radio chatter than it is than something paranormal, because I've never got a weather report. I never got a call letters. I never got a traffic report. I always got an answer to a question I was given.
That is interesting. Sorry. Sorry. Again. Okay, just an example. We can think that, and it's perfectly possible. I have a podcast also, and I was interviewing this researcher from Spain who specializes in EVPs. And I was telling him, because I was telling him that they always get the coolest EVPs with this so clear, and they even have an accent like the Spanish from Spain accent, and that I always get these tiny EVPs that you have to try and figure out what they're saying, and it's not often. And on that interview, we got like 20 anomalies or intrusions of voices coming, and the audio went crazy when we started recording. And I have a few of them that are voices that were neither him nor me. So is my house haunted? No, not right now. His is not either. But what happened, I was telling, I wish I could catch some of those EVPs like you. And now on our stream, on our video, we have some. So it's, I don't know.
When I get the EVPs now, actually, because of Brad, I have to have a trend of the same EVP before I start to have any faith in it. We have a place
Corroboration.
4 or 5 times now. It's one of the oldest houses in Canada. It's a mansion, and now we're going back for the 5th, 6th time. We don't do EVPs we mark the audio hits and then compare against, but unless it's multisyllabic, we don't have to compromise the audio quality. We generally don't accept it. One of the great things about this location that we go to is in the same spot in this mansion with the same stimulus at the same time, we're getting the same voice. So we're developing that trend, which other people get kind of bored going back to the same location. I get more excited because
That's
each
called
time I
research.
go back and we're getting the same thing. And I'm like, okay, so we're closer to getting an actual opinion about the place. And,
You're doing well, Padawan. You're doing well.
Well, Brad will agree with this, that corroboration is key, and that's where peer review comes in. And if I investigate someplace and then I leave, my team's gone, then Dave, your team, or Brad's team, you, whatever, you guys come in and you get audio evidence that sounds like my evidence. That makes my evidence all that better.
Sure.
But most teams are like, they don't want to do that. This is my building. You can't get in here, you fool. But they say they're scientific. I'm like, okay, where's your peer review?
You know what?
And they're like, what's that?
I send stuff to Brad all the time, just saying what about this? Or I know I post it, obviously in the private group chats and that, because I want to have 10, 15 people say,
yes,
blah, 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 blah. Because whether it's worth going forward, it starts with Sandy and then me, and then the rest of my team, and then it goes to another team, and then I'll probably find a team that I really don't deal with at all, right? But I got to be able to trust, and I'm a pragmatic team. We're not scientific. I don't follow the scientific process. I am not a scientist. I am just a logic-based pragmatist.
You move too fast. That's your problem.
I move too fast. I'm a little ADHD. Now we've got about 10 minutes left to this, and Fiona, my lovely daughter, bearer of my Prince Grayson grandson, one of 13 grandchildren. Can you believe 13 grandchildren? I'm insane. I made it 55 and I've got 13 grandchildren. Fiona, you give me your words. Now, I should know all the answers you're going to come out with because I raised you. But you shake your head like I didn't know anything.
What?
You end the segment with your words.
Okay, you make it seem like they're not important. I was raised with the paranormal pretty much right away. I can remember as early as 5 being around it, but it wasn't pushed on me in that sense. I knew it was there, but there was no expectation that I had to participate. Raised rather neutral religion. I mean, my grandmother's Protestant, and went to church with her here and there, went to Bible camp here or there to keep me out of trouble, but I wasn't actively participating in the religion. It was more just to keep me from causing problems for the summer. And yeah, my mom was raised Catholic, and Catholic Protestant actually, because her parents were both. And then Dad was not really anything. There was nothing, being in the household ever on either home. So, it took me a long time to kind of find out what I was kind of believing in. I used to say I was atheist, but I kind of sit around the agnostic. I know there's something up there, whether it be, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I do feel like there's a higher power. Now, how does it influence me in investigations? Not really much. I try to go in really impartial. Honestly, I go more by bodily movement, like how it impacts my body sensation on a somatic level, rather than, any sort of religious bias. And, Isela is correct with the confirmation bias. We've had lots of people, share things to us, and I've seen lots of things online where, if they're particularly religious and they're referring to something they saw, especially if someone's passed recently in their life, they've seen an orb or they've seen something on TV, and it has to be, the family member that just died. So, and I don't really, pertain to that. I don't subscribe to any religion. I have a lot of religious friends. I mean, a lot, and it just has never been something that.
How do they treat what you do?
So my Islamic friends don't really care, like they think it's cool. But I find any of my friends that are like on the Baptist or evangelical side are more like distanced from it, but also they're not bothered by it. At least not to my face. I mean, I don't know what they think privately, but I don't think
they're praying for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've never, and I've been to church so many times, so I've had so many ample opportunity to, find the whatever religious, yeah. So, but I just don't, and I don't let it. I don't have it, influence my investigations. I just think back to when we did our investigation that shall not be named by legal reasons. And I think about, how, yeah, how the floors, they genuinely felt like they were moving. And, I haven't really truly felt that on an investigation until this time. And it was like quite the somatic sense. Like I actually felt like I was going to like fall over. And so I like when it influences that. But overall, I mean, I like the science aspect. Like I really like the way that CPRI investigates. I like the pattern, but also like I have my degree in psychology, so I had to do a lot of stats research. So it's really imperative for me to see that pattern, which is why I like that we keep going back to SJJ, because, we get to see that repeated sense of what's happening here, why is it happening, what are we influencing this to happen for, and actually seeing that data. So thank you, Rob, for teaching my father these ways.
Well, it's not like I was a complete idiot.
That's, Dave, I mean, you should have heard what she said behind your back.
I see what he says in front of my face.
I messaged Rob privately, actually. We just talk crap about you all day long.
That's right. It's private messages about Dave.
What's happening, okay?
I wanted to, say one more thing about on the belief structure side of things. We actually, our organization, of course, I said we have a lot of skill sets, but we also have some folks that are that deal with a lot of what the anomalies and stuff that are out there from a spiritual aspect. I mean, they do the research. They know a lot about the Catholic side of things. But we just recently had a rabbi join our organization, and he's providing some real interesting commentary. I mean, those folks, we used to have people that were skilled in Wiccan, but one of them has passed. But they actually brought a real interesting side to this. And so they would collect their own data with their own experiments that were more psychological versus and we have a sociologist too. That's Jack Trammell. He's a sociologist with a university down here, and the guy he does his own experiments, does his own research, on the sociological side. So we're doing this from many different avenues. We even look at cryptids and UAPs. Go figure. But we look at all this stuff, and we're trying. And the most interesting thing that we're seeing right now is it almost looked like I never used to really believe that this was a thing, but you heard about the unified paranormal theory. We're kind of seeing it right now in the data. Now, we don't have enough data to say that's statistically significant, mind you, because we got to get a lot more data before we can do that. But some of the stuff we're seeing would kind of indicate such. and especially, you know, along the lines of the Einstein-Rosen bridge and things like that. And one thing that we're also seeing too is in the belief side of things, people that believe a certain way will hear what they call EVPs a certain way, and it's just and that's that confirmation bias again. It's so hard to separate your belief from what you're doing. It's very, very difficult to do that, because there are times when I'm like, oh my God, you know, then I have to get myself back into the zone. And then because we had something happen at a battlefield here a couple of months ago, and it absolutely knocked my socks off. So, and my belief structure was starting to leak into the front of my head here a little bit. And I was like, nope, push that back, because we need to look at this. We need to look at this passively here. I can't be an active participant in what's going on. So, it's the belief structure can really can benefit you in many ways, you know, especially in regards to grief, and then hope, and then and grounding you psychologically. But it can also hinder the investigative process, even on the psychological side or the sociological side, or even on the hard science side. It can hinder that. So you got to be very careful when you're doing that. On the EVP side of things, we don't listen for voices. We don't have, we listen, our recordings are picking up what we call audio anomalies. They can be anything from because Aaron mentioned something about indigestion. Yeah, we pick that up all the time, you know. But
you have a good quality recorder that'll take care of that.
But we also have we don't have, our data doesn't really support the existence of EVPs. The data doesn't, because we have multiple recorders that pick up these audio anomalies. We'll have a recorder pick up an audio anomaly, and then one about 10 feet away also picks it up. That's what tends to happen. So it's something that's actually audible. We just didn't hear it. And a lot of times that's because the frequency response in the microphones are, you know, way better than my ears. I was a rock and roll guy for 20 years. So yeah, my ears are shot. But it's, you know, and we go through that and we listen to those things. However, on occasion, you hear something that really makes you think. And we have to, but in order to really think about it, you got to pull in a linguist. You got to pull in somebody that's familiar with speech, and pretty much try to identify what they're saying. Because I could think it says something. Dave would say it says something else. Fiona would never hear it. I'm just joking, Fiona. But
we got something like that too. And I'm like, I don't know what it said, but the amount of Class A EVPs, which actually sounds like I'm speaking to you now, and I'm like, there's no doubt with that. You have none?
None.
What recorder are you using?
Some. We're using a lot of different things. We actually have a microphone array we put out there. You know, but the things that we are picking up, we did pick up. Aaron brought up the lady speaking French. We had a site at a state park in an old mansion from the 1760s. And it was built by French Huguenots. We heard a lady talking that said a couple of syllables, or you know, on the stairs, and we all heard it, and we got it on the recorders. So we had people that knew about speech and linguistics and stuff listen to it. Turns out that person was speaking French. And cool. we didn't know that. We couldn't know that. And actually, I thought it was a stomach growl, but it turns out it was a lady's voice when you listen to the recordings. And so that I had to pull all that. I had to pull back from that was somebody speaking French. There's got to be French people in there. Well, it turns out the house was built by French Huguenots. So that plays right into the historical aspect of the house. We didn't know that while we were there. We found that out after the fact. But like I said, though, we don't really have what's considered a Class A. We had a couple that we thought were Class A once, and it turns out somebody was faking them. Wow. And
Yeah.
it was, and those people are no longer with the organization. And this is
Oh,
way back.
good.
This is like
Good.
2011, and they booted them to the curb. That's before I had any authority. And
Well,
those guys.
I know you got a
Awful.
big all sciencey and stuff like that, but you're gonna go a little basic here. You have your audio array, and that's fantastic. You use a high quality recorder, good quality mic, that'll do great. Zoom recorders are fantastic. The H4, the H2s. But what we do differently than probably a lot of teams do is we take just a basic Sony recorder, and it's mic'd up because we have a mic to it, and everybody's mic'd.
Yeah.
So when I get an EVP, I listen to everybody's recorder. Everybody's on scene. If you don't have a recorder, you're not on the investigation. Because if I hear something, I'm like, is this an EVP or is this Tina? And she's facing away from me and it's just coming across broken on mine.
Right.
And so you have to do that. You have to put in the work. And so we've got stuff, and you can tell that, well, this EVP came from my recorder, but it wasn't heard on, I know it was heard on, Roach's recorder, but it wasn't heard on Tina's because she was over there. So that spirit was by us and not by her. So it gives you that. Plus, I have my Zoom recorders that are in the middle of the room. But so you got to kind of go low tech along with the high tech too.
Well, we have
These
those.
things, I guess, with the background noise in these because they're lower quality. I don't know what the white noise does to help, but yeah, it does bring things out. But
We have a bunch of
yeah, we got a lot of
Olympus.
those questions. We got a lot of those questionable EVPs, but we got a lot of Class A's.
No,
So.
we don't have any Class A's. That would be considered Class A.
That's
Yeah,
literally a topic for a whole different podcast.
Yeah.
'Cause we do the alphanumeric classification.
you do
Doo doo. You said doo doo.
Did I say do?
get a heart.
This has been an absolute blast. I love the whole meeting of the minds thing, the whole multiple, we need to do this again type thing. And I know that I need to go back and have another like singular guest appearances. Adrian and I could talk for days. We have consumed many drinks while we do it.
Yeah, we both talk.
And I have had a number of interviews and great, fascinating meetings. Zela, now we've met. So now we're going to have to make you a guest and focus directly on you. Fiona, you're my daughter, and I see you regularly. Anyway, so we're coming on to that mark. I really enjoyed the yap back and forth between the YouTube comments and the Facebooks and that sort of stuff. You guys handling them great. It's been a real laugh. But you know what? Once you start getting past an hour, people are like, "No, this is getting lame. I don't want to listen to this anymore." So it was a lot of fun. I had a blast. I thank you so much for all coming on here from all the places that you're at. So guess what? Ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you for everything.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Poof.